Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Tyranids. I've been a little bit off again because I was recovered from COVID, but it kind of came back for round 2, so it's put me out of action for a bit. I did have the Gene Stealer video in the bank as extra, so I've thrown it out a few days ago. But hopefully I'm back and yeah, we're going to carry on with these videos. So today we're going to be looking at the Barbgaunts, one of our infantry units from the Tyranids Index, Tyranids Codex now of course. And we're going to be doing our review and Planet 40k rating at the end of the video. Of course, it's just my opinion. If you've got a different one, put it down in the comments down below. So let's get on to the statistics for the Barbgaunts. We've got a 6-inch movement, toughness 4, 4+ armor, wounds 2, leadership 8+, and objective control is 1. So not overly resilient there, but they do have 2 wounds at least. And for that, you're going to be getting 60 points for 5 or 120 points for 10. So units of 5 or units of 10, 60 points as a min unit. Now, keywords of note, we've got infantry, of course, and that's pretty much all they've got. I mean, Great Devourer, Barbgaunts isn't really that relevant to anything in terms of rules, so they are effectively infantry. Faction ability-wise, we've got Synapse. They don't actually have Synapse, they need to gain Synapse from a Synapse creature. And if they do, then you get Synapse, which is cool. And then their unique ability is Disruption Bombardment. So in your shooting phase, after this unit is shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more of these attacks, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, the enemy unit is disrupted. So effectively it's going to be a -2 to their movement, a -2 to their advance, and a -2 to their charge rolls. Which is, it was nerfed early 10th edition because we used to be able to split fire and just attack loads of different units with this ability, but now it is simply one enemy unit, and it's an infantry unit as well. Now the key thing to note here that it's the move characteristic that gets affected. Yep, got that right. So therefore, you're not going to be adding to the advance roll and then just minusing 2 from that entire thing. It's -2 to the characteristic, then -2 to the advance roll. So it is still -2, -2, -2. Now, unfortunately, we can only use this in our shooting phase, so we can't be using this in Overwatch in your opponent's turn to try and disrupt their move and charge move. Can't do that. It's only our shooting phase. As for the actual weaponry that these guys have got, well, they've got the Barb Launcher. Each one is 24-inch range, D6 shots, although it has got blast. We're hitting on 4+, but we've got heavy, so we'll come back to that in a moment as well. Strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. So they're effectively like blast bolt guns, if you like, with D6 shots, but with blast, so that we can get extra attacks. If you go up against a 5-man unit, that's an extra 1 attack. If you go up against a 20-man unit, that's an extra 4 attacks. And that's of course per Barbgaunt as well. So there can be quite a lot of attacks there. Heavy of course is just a +1 to the hit roll if you don't move, so they could be hitting on a 3+ rather than a 4+, which is cool. Now just for some quick figures here, if you were to stay stationary and you're hitting on 3s, you're looking at about 11 guardsmen that will go down if you're firing at guardsmen, 1.5 space marines, because there's not really many in a 5-man unit of space marines. The guardsmen had 20, just so it's easy for the maths. Terminator onwards, you're looking, it's a waste of time to be honest. Vehicles, monsters, Terminators, don't bother because you're going to do minimal damage. There's no AP, 1 damage. Unless you're just trying to slow them down, I wouldn't bother targeting them. Then as for the melee weapon, well, the chitinous claws and teeth, it's not even really worth the discussion. They've got no AP, 1 damage, hitting on 4s, 1 attack each. They just suck in melee. You'd probably forget, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even worry about it. Synergy wise, well, the first things to look at are the zone thropes, because you're going to get a 6+ invulnerable save if you're within 6 inches. Also Synapse as well, which will help. But it's a way of gaining an invulnerable save. You've also got the venom thropes, of course, because they've got the foul spores aura, so you're going to be gaining the benefits of cover, as well as stealth, so it'd be a -1 to hit them, as well as the benefits of cover. You've then got the Psycho Phage for the Biostimulus aura. Within 6 inches, you're going to get a 6+ Fu no pain save. So you can actually stack all these things together. You can have the -1 to hit, the benefits of cover, 6+ Invuln save, 6+ Fu no pain save. All of that together is quite nice. Will of the Hive Mind from a Hive Tyrant to gain a stratagem, if you like, for 0 command points, as long as it's a battle tactic stratagem. Command reroll is an option there. Of course, each individual detachment or hive fleet has its own stratagems and whatnot, so we'll have to go through each one to you'll have to go through each one, because that will take quite a while. But I do want to talk about a key detachment for this video, and the key detachment, I believe, is the basic launch detachment of the Invasion Hive Fleet. I think that's the only one that you can sort of say works reasonably well. All the others work okay. They don't seem to be a unit that stands out in any of the new detachments, because it's not a monster, it's not an endless multitude unit, it's just a standalone unit, I suppose, that works in every other detachment. So I want to go back and talk about the invasion fleet for a moment. You can either have sustain hits or lethal hits with the hyper adaptations ability, and when you're doing that with a lot of shots, with blast, d6 each, with sustain hits 1 or lethal hits, that could be pretty cool, could be pretty good. But of course it all depends on what the rest of your list looks like before you start selecting detachments. You're not going to select the invasion high fleet purely based on your Barbgaunts, that would be kind of silly. It's sort of an afterthought really. So, not really much to say in terms of detachments. I mean, there are other options that we could just mention briefly. The Synaptic Nexus, where you can get a 5+ invulnerable save, and there are ways of using that a second time within the game. There's also the ability to fall back and shoot. I think that's the overdrive stratagem, if I remember that correctly. The other ones I don't seem to think there's much in relation to Barbgaunts. So I'm going to move on. Let's move on to the battlefield role and the secondary mission scoring. So battlefield role, they're just a sit and shoot unit. You're slowing enemy infantry units down, that's their main purpose. -2 move, -2 advance, -2 charge. Could be useful on a number of different units. I mean, Death Guard Terminators maybe trying to go up the board, or Poxwalkers, because Death Guard are pretty slow. It could be my Necron Warriors, I don't know. I mean, there's loads of infantry in the game. Terminators that have already done the deep strike, then they're moving for a second unit potentially, so they're sort of in a certain location. Bang, -2 to your move, -2 to your charge. Nice. Next low, yeah, we've done that one. We're holding deployment zone objectives, potentially. Well, really, that's what they should be doing. They don't need to go up the field, they don't need to get into the no man's land, and they definitely don't need to get into your opponent's DZ. So they're literally going to be in our deployment zone, and the likelihood is they can sit on our objective. They don't necessarily have to. Maybe you've got a Tyrannofex, so you've already got something covering that base, or a Bible maybe. So you don't necessarily need to, and if you're not, then you could just use them as an anti-deep strike unit, maybe protect the corners. You've got cheaper ways of doing that, but it's an option. Secondary mission wise, you can do some actions sort of in our half of the battlefield, cleanse maybe. You can also do extend battle line, secure no man's land, defend stronghold, everything that relates to our half of the battlefield. Area denial, just about our half is in the centre, to get rid of some units maybe. And engage on all fronts, you'll be in a quarter. I mean, you'll probably not need the Barbgaunts for engaging on all fronts because you'll have other units, but they will assist in the long run. Pros and cons wise, they're slowing your enemy infantry units down, which of course is the major reason to bring them. They're 2 wounds each, which is nice. Takes a bit longer to get through them, especially at range. They've got heavy as well as blast, which is nice. Hitting on 3s and extra attacks against the units that you're actually targeting, which is infantry. Nice. They're pretty cheap for what they do. I mean, they're 12 points a model if you break it down. And you can have a min unit of 5, so only 60 points gets you an entire unit that has that ability. I think that's reasonably cheap. There are cheaper units, don't get me wrong, but those cheaper units like Ripper Swarms, for example, don't have any OC, they don't have any ranged attacks, they're crap in melee. These guys at least have a ranged attack and can do some stuff with their ability. And they work in pretty much any detachment. They won't necessarily gain all the buffs and bonuses from those detachments, but they will pretty much work in any detachment. I mean, again, if you go back to what about the Crusher Stampede detachment? That's all about bullying the no man's land with your Horus Vexes and stuff like that. They can assist with slowing units down that get towards our Horus Vexes, so they can work pretty much anywhere. As for the cons, we've got cheaper anti-deep strike options, Neuragaunts maybe, Rippers we already mentioned. The damage output is low versus non-horde units. Against the hordes, 11 guardsmen I think it was that went down, but against anything else it stank. They suck in melee. Once they do get tagged, they're pretty useless. They're not very durable. Yes, they've got 2 wounds, but they've got toughness 4, 4+ armor. They're pretty much like a Space Marine in a way, just with a 4+ save. They don't really stand out in any particular detachment. They're sort of just an additional unit that you kind of throw into your list, regardless of the detachment you take. They're not an Endless Multitude Gaunt, even though they are Gaunts, they're Barbgaunts. They don't have the Endless Multitude keyword, so they're not going to go into that Unending Swarm detachment, for example, and work with the buffs. There's a lot of competition with this kind of unit. There's a lot of cheaper stuff, as we mentioned already, and anti-horde in particular our codex is littered with those kind of units, so we don't necessarily need them. Finally, they're an afterthought when you're making your list. They do make the majority of people's lists, but they're those units that you can kind of go, I'm struggling for points, what shall I take out? Barbgaunts, let's just get rid of them. That's kind of where people are at the moment. They'd rather have something else, so there will be the sacrificial lamb to get something else in. But this is where we kind of conclude the video here. They always seem to get into your list before you take them out again, if that makes any sense. They're always there, and for that reason they must be good. They're not, you know, there's units that we've got like the Toxicrin that never gets into the list to be taken out in the first place, whereas Barbgaunts are always there or thereabouts. So for me, they're decent, and I'm going to go with a Planet 40k rating of 4 star.